Hello, good evening. Meanwhile, please get connected. I ask other children also to join the class. So, today our chapter is energy resources. Okay. So, meanwhile, I ask other people to join the classes. Quick. So usually the energy resources, so we derive the power from energy resources. Okay, so now let's go through that what are these energy resources. We can say power resources or energy resources, and these energy resources are broadly divided into conventional energy resources or non-renewable, non-conventional energy resources, or what we say renewable sources of energy. Now sun is the ultimate source of energy, we know. Now conventional and non-renewable, if you combine both conventional and non-renewable, examples are like fossil fuels like coal, oil, even natural gas. Conventional but renewable includes firewood, cow dung, vegetable wastes also. But when it comes to non-conventional energy sources, so they are like solar energy, hydropower, nuclear energy, wind energy, etc. So now we need to understand actually what are these different sources of energy and how, what is actually the difference. So all the usable energy sources are found in nature, but there is a small difference, right? Some have no problem and some have more problem. That's the difference. Okay, now here let us see that renewable sources, when I use these sources of energy which can be recycled, these are available both abiotic like water, sunlight, wind, or also biotic like forests and wildlife, renewable sources. Renewable sources are inexhaustible and they are not affected by human activities. Whereas coming to the non-renewable sources, if these are used once, it takes much time or it cannot be used again. Generally, non-renewable sources of energy release pollutants including carbon dioxide when burned. These are not eco-friendly. Coal, natural gas, petroleum, oil, nuclear energy, these are all examples of non-renewable energy. Non-renewable energies are exhaustible, means they will come to an end, maybe within few days or within few months or few years, short time. Non-renewable sources are affected by human activities. Now let us understand another very interesting observation. If you will go by example, if you want to produce electricity by using renewable sources like water or wind, then in this manner we need to spend more money to generate the electricity by using renewable sources. But the same electricity, if we try to generate by using non-renewable sources, maybe coal or natural gas, comparatively they will be less costly to renewable energy. So renewable energy based electricity is more costly, non-renewable based electricity generation is less costly. At the same time, coming to the availability also, renewable sources are available in plenty or abundance, whereas non-renewable sources are available in limited. At the same time, renewable sources like solar farms or say wind farms, if you take example, they require more area or more space. And when it comes to the thermal power station, take for example, it requires a smaller area. So these are some of the differences between the renewable and the non-renewable sources of energy. Now coming to energy is generally is used in storage way, and another is energy is generated also. Now if you take the world consumption of the energy resources, then non-renewable sources including fossil fuel, they constitute 85.5%, whereas renewable is a meager 10.1%. I am talking about the world statistics. And if we will go by the percentage, petroleum 32.89% is consumed in the power sector or energy generation sector in the world. Coal accounts 29.16%, natural gas 23.40%, nuclear 4.43%. And now coming to renewable, hydroelectricity 6.78%, wind 1.45%, solar power 0.43%, and biofuel 0.57%. This is the statistics of the power generation of energy resources for the world based on 2015 statistics. Now let us go through that what are the other important points also. Now let us understand. Now we need to understand, that is the energy resources we are talking about. So renewable energy resources can be used again and again in simple language. Example, solar energy or wind energy or hydroelectricity. Whereas non-renewable energy, briefly we can say, resources are limited in availability and cannot be used again. For example, coal petroleum, etc. Now let us go to the next important point. Now one prominent conventional energy resources, when I use the word conventional, they are non-renewable, non-conventional, renewable. Now coal, now let us understand as a prominent source of energy. Now in India, coal is the foremost power resource, mainly for the production of electricity. It is 54% of total electricity generation. Coal is used. About 96% of total coal reserve in India is found in the Gondwana structure. Now the rest of the coal is of the tertiary region. 70% of total energy generated is by coal. Now let us see that the coal which we have discussed, it constitutes 70% of total commercial energy consumed in India. Coal has been described as the bridge into the future. This is often called as black gold. Coal occurs in rock sequences mainly of two geological ages. One is Gondwana deposits, another is tertiary deposits. Right. Now we have to see Gondwana coal are located in coal fields occupying the Indian heartland. Tertiary coal fields occur in northeastern states. Now let us see that the types of coal in India. Now anthracite coal, the best quality of coal, and contains 80 to 95% carbon. It is found mainly in Jammu and Kashmir, and that too in small quantity. Now coming to bituminous, the most widely used coal in India and contains 40 to 80% carbon. It is found in Jharkhand, West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, Odisha, to name the major states. Now the next important one is lignite. It is also known as the brown coal. Okay, coal is usually black, but lignite is, due to its brownish shade, it is called as brown coal. It is a lower grade cost coal and contains about 40 to 55% carbon. It is found in primarily Neyveli of Tamil Nadu and parts of Rajasthan and Assam region. Now the next one is the peat. It is the final stage of transformation of wood and other organic material into coal. and contains less than 40 to 55% carbon. Sometimes we also may get some fossils locked in the peat. So that is really very important. So in which type of coal sometimes we may obtain the fossils, and that is peat. And the first grade coal is anthracite. And much used in India, the coal grade is bituminous. Whereas what is called as the brown coal, certainly it is the lignite. So these points we need to remember. Now let us learn about the other important points related to the coal. Now classification of coal, if you go by the regions, we have divided them. How there are two important deposits of coal we obtain, and one is the Gondwana coal field and another is the tertiary coal field. About 98% of Indian coal field reserves are found in the Gondwana region. More than 74 basins, mostly in the peninsular India. And you have to remember that most of our coal mines or coal fields, they are in the river valleys. That is really an interesting point need to be remembered. The river valleys of Mahanadi, Damodar, Godavari, Son, Indravati, etc. This coal field is 250 million years old, and with low sulfur content, both coking as well as non-coking with low sulfur content we get in this region. So now the point is here, the tertiary coal fields. It is associated with marine deposits to limestones, which were formed 15 to 60 million years ago. These are limited to parts of Northeast India like Assam, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, and few other parts of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, etc. Unlike the Gondwana coal, tertiary coal generally have high sulfur percentage. This is a point to be noted. Now the point is here, the coal resources of India, if you take as per 2004, have been estimated 2,45,693 million tons. That is really a very big number. Now we have learned that is how India is one of the prominent producer of coal. If you go by state-wise distribution of coal reserves, Then we find Jharkhand, followed by Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha. These are prominent states, and West Bengal too. Distribution of coal. Odisha contains the largest reserves. That point has to be noted, that the state with the largest reserves of coal is Odisha, and over 90% of the lignite reserves, they are concentrated in Tamil Nadu, and mainly Neyveli Lignite Corporation is very famous. The major coal fields, if you go by state-wise also, we find some prominent regions are there which are very, very famous related to the coal. And now when we talk about the coal, it is certainly Jharkhand, a very important state, and in this the prominent places connected with the production of the coal: Jharia, Bokaro, Giridih, Karanpura. These are all prominent coal fields of Jharkhand. And Jharia is recognized as the storehouse of the best metallurgical coal in the country. We have Korba, Birampur, Jhilmili, important coal fields of Chhattisgarh. Whereas coming to Odisha, we have Talcher coal field. It ranks second in reserves after Raniganj coal field. Coming to Madhya Pradesh, Singrauli, Sohagpur, Pench, Kanhan, Tawa are important coal fields of Madhya Pradesh. The same way, Raniganj is one of the important coal field of India that we need to remember. At the same time, if you go by the areas, the Damodar Valley coal field, you can go by the river valleys also, we can divide. We can go by the river valleys. Then if you divide it by river valleys, one I said state-wise, another is river valley-wise. Remember, coals are obtained in the river valleys. Okay. Now if you go by the river valleys, important coal producing areas in India are Damodar River Valley coalfield. So this is extended Jharkhand, West Bengal, and it is the largest coal reserve in India. You see, here I am talking about by coal producing regions. Then Damodar Valley coalfield is the largest coal reserve. Now Jharia in Jharkhand, it is the largest coal mining field of Jharkhand and it is one of the largest in India. And other major coal fields already we said, like Bokaro, Whereas in West Bengal, it is Raniganj, which is a major coalfield, also falls in Damodar Valley coalfield. Now coming to Son Valley coalfield, Son River. In this, the coalfields mainly Madhya Pradesh, partly Uttar Pradesh, they come under this, and the prominent one is Singrauli. Okay, later on you need to go through the atlas for better understanding. Of course, in the final stages I too will cover the map pointing. Sohagpur, Umaria, Ramkola, these are all the names, but Singrauli, Sohagpur are big names in the Son Valley coalfield. Next we have Mahanadi Valley coalfield. It expands from Chhattisgarh to Odisha. In this Korba, Jhilmili, Chirmiri, Talcher, Rampur Hingil, these are all prominent coalfields. These will come under the Mahanadi Valley coalfield. And whereas now the Godavari Valley coalfield, it is expanded mainly in Telangana, and of course now that Andhra and Telangana divided, so spreads the Telangana region and Andhra Pradesh region. Karimnagar, Khammam and Warangal are major coal producing districts, and the important coal field is Singareni, which is very famous. So now going by the coal reserves, Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh are prominent producers and reserves also. Now coming to consumption of coal, if you see in India, how coal is used in India. So for electricity purpose, 69.56% is consumed. For producing or in the steel sector, 8.55% is consumed coal. In cement sector, the coal consumption is 4.09%. At the same time, in recent past, they have asked the question that what percentage of coal is used for railways, and it is almost now nil. The reason is because steam engines are no more in use, and whatever in a few lines like mountain trains, if you leave rail tracks, so almost everywhere now the railways have stopped using or running steam engines. That is an interesting point. But remember, once railways were the largest consumers of the coal, also we should not forget. That is important. Now the next prominent point is the problems of coal industry. Now if you see in the coal industry, what are our problems we are facing, means in coal mines. So coal plays a prominent role in the industrialization of the country, but coal is not available in the same percentage throughout or uniformly throughout the nation. So there is unequal distribution of coal. As we said just now, that Odisha, West Bengal, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, these are prominent coal producing states. But when it comes to other states like Karnataka, Kerala and other states, they don't have almost no coal. Number two is in coal mining, the methods of mining are not up to date. We are using still outdated methods of mining. So that's why even though we have enough reserves, but we are not able to extract properly and safely. Number three, the poor quality. The quality of coal which is available, the anthracite coal percentage is very little. Whereas the bituminous, the second grade and third grade coals are available in large amount. So this poor quality of the coal is also one problem faced by the coal industry. Now frequent accidents like fires breaking in the coal mines and waterlogging due to sudden flash floods as it happened in Dhanbad region. So we are facing a big problem both with fire and also with the waterlogging. So waterlogging means water will be stored or will stay there for a long time. Okay, so it is almost like stagnant. So that is waterlogging. So that is another big problem faced by the coal industry in our country. Now coming to the conservation of coal. Fine. So now the consumption of coal, if you will see, conservation of coal we are discussing about. High quality coal, we have to use it mainly in the metallurgical industry because they need more heat generation by burning the coal. As nowadays coke is also imported and used in metallurgical industry. Like that, high quality coal we have to use it in metallurgical industry. Number two, there is a need to discover the new reserves because of the growing demand of the coal. It is essential. Number three, non-conventional sources of energy we have to popularize. Renewable sources of energy, if we popularize, we can conserve more coal. These are important. So here we find that is conservation of coal becomes very important need of the day. Present generation have a lot of responsibility. Now the next prominent point is petroleum. Now when it comes to petroleum and natural gas, both are found in the fossil rich rocks and natural gas is found at the top, mineral oil below that, and water at the bottom. Remember, these are the three different levels. Natural gas is found at the top part, little bit below we will come across mineral oil, still below means water. So water is at the bottom. In India, the petroleum was first of all struck in Naharpang in 1866, but no oil was obtained. Makum was the first area where oil was obtained in 1867. In the same year, oil was discovered in Digboy, 1867. So we consider that Digboy as the first major place where the oil was discovered. Before 1960, petroleum was produced only in Assam. I am talking about India. And first time an oil well was dug outside Assam. It was Ankaleshwar region, and it was named Vasundhara, India's first offshore mining was done in an island named Aliabet, 45 kilometers away from Bhavnagar in Gujarat. In 1975, oil was discovered in Bombay High. So, to put it in simply, Digboy to Ankaleshwar to Bombay High, this is the initial journey of India in relation to petroleum. Now some important tidbits we have to say. Petroleum products like kerosene, synthetic rubber, gasoline, printing ink, cosmetics, paints, diesel, petrol, all these are the products which we obtain from the crude oil after fractional distillation. Now the prominent places of the petroleum producing regions, we said that when it comes to Bombay High, 176 kilometers southwest of Mumbai in the Arabian Sea, we find the Bombay High oil field. It had started production in 1976. Then we had very close by south of Bombay High is Basin oil field. That is also very important oil field. Then next we have Aliabet oil field, 45 kilometers away from Bhavnagar, Gujarat. Other prominent places in Gujarat include Ankaleshwar. It is the largest and oldest oil field in Gujarat. And oil from here is sent to Trombay and Koyali for refining. Natural gas obtained from here is sent to Vadodara and Uran thermal power stations. Cambay, Loni, Ahmedabad, Kalol region also is in the oil producing region. Coming to Brahmaputra Valley, we have the places like Digboy oil field, only one petroleum producing area till 1954. We have Naharkatia oil field, left bank of the river Budi Dihang. Oil mined from here is sent through pipeline to Noonamati and Barauni in Bihar for refining. The same way, Rudra Sagar Lakwa oil field, Surma Valley oil field, Moran, Hugirijang oil field are also located in this region of Brahmaputra Valley. So what we are discussing is that petroleum producing regions of India are primarily Digboi region, Ankleshwar region, Bombay high oil field region. Of course, we have seen the latest editions since 1980. We find in the Krishna Godavari river basin oil field, and we find from Andhra Pradesh, Thale region to Tanjavur area of Tamil Nadu. We obtained the oil field about 75 kilometers away from Kakinada. Next we have Kaveri Basin oil field, which I have not written here, but these are also additions as the petroleum producing or oil field producing regions of India. It is Narimanam and Kovilappal oil wells, which are refined in the Kaveri refinery at Panaigudi near Chennai. This is another important oil fields area. So that is certainly one of the prominent points which we have discussed. Now we have to go through the important the pipelines also we have. So if you go by the pipelines, we have seen that how the development and expansion of pipeline as a means of transport also in India. Pipelines are used to transport the oil or the gas without any delay and without any kind of traffic congestion. The first pipeline in India was built in 1964 from Digboi to Barauni. Crude petroleum from the oil wells of Assam was brought by the pipeline to Barauni refinery to be refined. Now major pipelines in India, if we'll discuss, we have in the northeast like Naharkatia Barauni pipeline. It is the oldest pipeline in 1962 between Naharkatia, Assam and Barauni in Bihar. The same way we have for crude oil transportation I am talking about. The same way for transportation now of crude oil we are discussing. Mumbai High from Mumbai Ankaleshwar Koyali pipeline. This pipeline was built in 1965 to bring crude oil from the offshore region of Mumbai and the oil fields of Ankaleshwar to Koyali. Both Ankaleshwar and Koyali are in Gujarat. And in Koyali we have the refinery. Next we have another important one is the Salaya Mathura pipeline passing through Koyali. Salaya is located at the coast near Vadinar in Gujarat. This pipeline carries crude oil for the Indian oil refineries at Koyali, that is Gujarat, and Mathura, Uttar Pradesh, and Panipat, Haryana from Salaya. So Salaya in Gujarat, Koyali also in Gujarat, Mathura in Uttar Pradesh, and finally ending its journey at Panipat in Haryana. Now we have Mathura, Delhi, Ambala, Jalandhar, also another prominent pipeline, but this pipeline is used for petroleum products. This 763 kilometer pipeline was built in 1982 for transportation of petroleum products from Mathura oil refinery to Jalandhar in Punjab via Delhi and Ambala. At the same time, we should not forget the other petroleum transporting. So through pipeline, crude oil or petroleum products are transported. At the same time, we also have for LPG also. Now we need to remember another prominent for petroleum is certainly from Visakhapatnam to Secunderabad pipeline via Vijayawada. This is 572 kilometer long pipeline, was built from Visakhapatnam refinery to Vijayawada in 1998 and from Vijayawada to Secunderabad in 2002. So this is another prominent pipeline. The same way we have for the liquefied petroleum gas also we have pipelines. One example is like Panipat to Jalandhar LPG pipeline or Visakhapatnam to Secunderabad LPG pipeline, etc. Now we need to throw the light on the prominent pipelines for transportation of natural gas. So here I said through pipelines for sending or transporting crude oil, for transporting petroleum products, or for transporting liquefied petroleum gas, or for transporting natural gas also, different purposes these are used. Now let us discuss the most prominent one, HBJ, often asked in competitive examinations. That what is this HBJ? This is for a long time the longest pipeline of India. Remember, whenever the question is longest pipeline, you will need, it may differ because the purpose may be for carrying natural gas or the longest pipeline for carrying LPG. So in this way sometimes differences may come, so don't get confused. So initially this pipeline ran from Hazira, which is in Gujarat, to Jagdishpur, which is in Uttar Pradesh, via Vijaypur, which is in Madhya Pradesh. It became 3,474 kilometer long now, and this pipeline is being extended from Jagdishpur to Haldia, which is 2,050 kilometer long. This pipeline transports natural gas, based on which fertilizer factories have been set up at Vijaypur, Jagdishpur, Shahjahanpur, etc. Power stations based on natural gas have also been set up at two places. So this thing we need to remember, how through pipelines also things have now changed. Now the next prominent point is the natural gas. So this is another prominent source of energy. Natural gas is another very prominent source of energy. Recent discoveries of Krishna Godavari offshore basin and Ravva field will have a big contribution in the field of gas production in India. Krishna Godavari offshore basin is reported to be the largest discovery of natural gas in the world, which took place in 2002. The wells are being drilled at depths of 1350 to 2700 meters, which is the deepest oil exploration also in India. Now, natural gas, which we discussed, this helps in again producing energy. So distribution of the exploration of natural gas is done by Oil and Natural Gas Commission of India. 75% reserves lies in the Bombay High and the basin near to it. India still is deficient in natural gas, so which we are importing all the way from Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE and other countries. If you go by the distribution of natural gas, we find that Assam Meghalaya region, Gujarat region, Gulf of Khambat region, Bombay High region, Ravva structure region and Perangulam area in Tamil Nadu. These are all the prominent areas where we get the natural gas. Now we find that by using the natural gas, we can also generate the power, and in this way, to a great extent, we can solve our power related problems also. Now we need to learn about the hydroelectricity. Now when it comes to power generation, we find that electricity as a means of power, there are three major means of electrical energy production in India: either thermal energy, hydroelectricity, and the third one is atomic energy. When it comes to hydroelectricity, it accounts for about 13.5% of the total capacity. Now, as we are throwing light on the hydroelectricity, now let us understand that how this electricity generation through hydel power is of importance. Now let us try to understand. Power development in India commenced with the commissioning of electrical supply in Darjeeling during 1897. You are hearing right. Power development in India commenced with the commissioning of electricity supply in Darjeeling during 1897, followed by hydel power station built at Sivasamudram in Karnataka in 1902. Now power generation during 2012-13 was 912 billion units. If you go by percentage share in the electricity generation in India, hydel power constitutes 18.98%, thermal power constitutes 66.3%, whereas nuclear or atomic power constitutes a meager 2.30%. National Hydroelectric Power Corporation was set up in 1975. There are some states in India like Himachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Sikkim, Uttarakhand. These states wholly depend upon hydroelectricity. And when it comes to the largest share in the hydroelectricity generation, Punjab ranks first. Punjab has the largest share in hydroelectricity, followed by Karnataka, Maharashtra and Kerala. At the same time, some important hydroelectric projects, okay, certainly I will name some and you have to remember some by taking the help of the atlas. Some prominent hydroelectric power projects I am saying. For example, Bhakra and Nangal on river Satluj in Punjab and Himachal Pradesh. We have Rihand project in UP. Gandhi Sagar on Chambal in Madhya Pradesh. Hirakud project in Odisha. The same way Koyana hydroelectric power project in Maharashtra. Whereas Nagarjuna Sagar and Sri Sailam projects in Andhra Pradesh. Tungabhadra project in Karnataka. In the same way, we have other prominent like Mettur in Tamil Nadu and Idukki in Kerala, to name some of the prominent hydroelectric power stations in our country. So in this way, hydel power plays a prominent role in our country, which you need to remember. Since India has a net of rivers, that's why it is certainly very, very useful. Now next one, let us see the thermal electricity. And usually we have a wrong notion among the students particularly. Those who feel that thermal means heat, so that's why thermal power station, as in hydel power, water is used to move or turn the turbine. So like that, in thermal power station, heat is generated by burning coal only, we think, but that's not correct. Thermal power stations can use coal as the burning material. They can use natural gas. They can use some atomic mineral. They can use other things also to burn. So anything, natural gas or coal or other thing which is used in burning, and with that they generate electricity, then that will be classified as the thermal power stations. Now let us understand that the thermal power stations clear in India and the need. Thermal electricity is the most important source of energy. Coal, sometimes diesel or natural gas are used to generate the thermal electricity. In 1975, National Thermal Power Corporation, or what we say NTPC, was established to encourage generation of thermal energy. In the year 2010-11, thermal power accounted for over 66% of the total power generation. NTPC has 16 coal-based super thermal power projects and 7 gas or liquid-based combined cycle projects. Maharashtra is the largest producer of thermal electricity and accounts for about 16% in India. Gujarat is the second largest producer of thermal electricity in India, followed by Andhra Pradesh and West Bengal. Now the final one is the nuclear energy. It is obtained from uranium and thorium generally. India has vast deposits of thorium amounting to about 50% of the world's total. It contributes a little over 3% of our total power generation. Atomic Energy Institute at Trombay, set up in 1954, was renamed as the Bhabha Atomic Research Center in 1967. The first nuclear power station with 320 megawatt capacity was set up at Tarapur in Maharashtra. Tarapur in 1969. At present, nuclear energy is produced from 10 units. Tarapur in Maharashtra, Rawatbhata in Rajasthan, Narora, Uttar Pradesh, Kalpakam, Tamil Nadu, Kaiga, Karnataka, Kakrapada in Gujarat. Nuclear fuel complex is in Hyderabad. Heavy water plants are in Vadodara, Tuticorin, Kota, Thal, Hazira, Manuguru. The first heavy water plant was set up in Nangal in 1962. India has become the 6th nation having technology to build and operate a fast breeder nuclear reactor after USA, UK, USSR, France, Japan. Now the states with the highest power generation, if you go, then Maharashtra, followed by Gujarat, Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh combinedly, if you take all sorts of power. But highest energy consumption also, if you see, then again Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat are in the contest. Now coming to electricity consumption, if you go by percentage, industry consumes the maximum 44.84%, domestic purpose 22.01 percentage, agriculture 17.3% consumption of electricity, commercial use 8.9%, and the remaining others. So in this way we have clear concluded today's discussion. So see you with a new topic in the next class, and tomorrow, as we have promised, we will have a quiz based on this topic. So try to learn. At the same time, let us meet tomorrow clear in a contest quiz based on today's topic and a few general questions. So now, for the time being, it is the time to say goodbye to all, and stay at home and stay safe.